Good morning, Covington County. Welcome to Good News Covington County with Cousin Jared and Cousin Tom and the crew coming to you from the square here in Andalusia at our studios. What a gorgeous day it is today. I got some great news today. If everything goes right, we're going to have Miss Deborah Evans from the Humane Society here in Andalusia come in and bring us another animal other than Tom and Jared and myself for us to look at and maybe talk to the animal and do like Dr. Doolittle. We'll talk with the animals and maybe the animal will talk back to us. I'm not sure. But we're looking forward to that interview. It was a great night last night. If you watched TV, it was the first episode of Dancing with the Stars. I'd like to say my wife put a gun to my head and made me watch it, but there was no gun involved. I actually enjoyed watching it last night. That's not something that I normally do. They eliminated 2 people last night. And I can tell you they're not going to be on our show this morning. They're going to be on Good Morning America. But the folks eliminated were Johnny Damon, the baseball all-star that played with the Angels, I believe it was, the Angels and the Boston Red Sox. He's got 2 championship rings, World Series rings. And Jamie Anderson, she's a female snowboarder. They were eliminated. Pretty interesting. Kareem Abdul-Jabbar was kind of one of the sentimental favorites. And I've got to say this about Kareem. Kareem, he doesn't have the moves that he used to. It looks like me out there. He looked very, very frail. But he tried. He's so doggone tall. Everybody around him looks like the Lilliputians in Gulliver's Travel. And then Tanya Harding, the former skater that is banned from participating in skating since her incident back in the 90s. Anyway, she was on there, very emotional, and a wonderful performance. I don't know what I'm looking at when dancing, but she got a great score and apparently did very, very well. So we're up to date on the media, I guess. The other thing I want to mention to you is that we have a Fleetwood Mac tribute band here in town. They're coming in town today. They may be here already for all I know. They're out of Atlanta. They're called Rumors. They're going to be at the Covington Arts Council's first show, final show of the year. They're going to be at the LBW Community College Dixon Cultural Center. It will be a live concert, and they are a really, really good tribute group. Go to YouTube and look them up, Rumors. The concert will begin at 7 p.m. Tickets are available at Harold's Furniture and the Andalusia Star News for $15 in advance. They'll also be available at the gate for $20 per person. This is a fundraiser for the Covington County Arts Councils, and they do an awful lot of good. With the exception of their fundraisers like this, they provide an awful lot of culture to the area without any charge to the general public. I want to mention a friend of mine over in Opp, Alabama. I was by there last week, and I forgot to mention I needed to check up something, and I had Tom with me, and we went by to see Jamie Bowers over at Bowers Auto Parts in Napa Auto Parts over in Opp. And saw Jamie and Jackie for a minute and the crew over there. They had some of their delivery people and everything in. Just if you're in the Opp area and you need a high quality auto part, or you need hydraulic hoses or maybe even hydraulic fluid, check by Jamie Bowers over there on the main drag in Opp. See Jamie or Jackie at Bowers Auto Parts in Opp. Real interesting article in the Star News by Michelle Gerlach about an Andalusia native's efforts to provide free medical marijuana to veterans. And it's going to take a few minutes for this particular segment, so we may divide it into 2 segments. Andalusia native Jason Sweat hopes the national publicity that his business and outreach received this weekend will help him further his mission of helping veterans avoid the dangers of opioids by making medicinal marijuana available to them. Sweat and his business partner, Aaron Newsom, were interviewed as part of an hour-long CNN news special. The two founded Santa Cruz Veterans Alliance, and we'll refer to that as SCVA through the rest of this article, which provides free lab-tested medical cannabis to veterans. Jason is a 1994 Andalusia High School graduate, went into the Army in 1996. According to his story, he used cannabis a little bit in his senior year in high school, but he had no interaction with cannabis during the 10 years that he was in the military. He planned to make the military a career, but things changed, and as he said, I planned to be a lifer and do 20 years. He said, it didn't happen the way I wanted it to. He received an honorable discharge in 2006 after 2 years in Iraq and was working toward completing an undergraduate degree in Hawaii. But the transition from military to civilian life was difficult. And I can tell that truthfully from my own sons that when they went, as they mainstream, they're not, they fortunately haven't had the trauma of the Iraq or Afghanistan wars, but they've both been in the military. And they do feel a little bit strange when they come back and try to mainstream with the rest of the students at colleges. I remember my oldest son, Benjamin, was in a lab class with a young man last year, and he looked at him and says, well, you're already grown up. And I guess they are compared to many of their contemporaries. We're going to take a break now. We'll be back with the rest of this story. Welcome back to Good News Covington County. When I left, we were talking about Jason Sweat, an Andalusian, class of 1994, Andalusia High School, veteran of the Iraq War, and his efforts to make medical marijuana free to veterans in the California area, which is where he has moved. As I explained it earlier in the story, he was in college in Hawaii, and he was having trouble adjusting to the environment after having been in the military for 10 years. He moved to California with his girlfriend and got a job in the Bay Area and started working in a business that sold gardening supplies and doing a little cultivating for himself. Jason says, I started to think maybe I should give back. Many of the vets that he knew were on Social Security and couldn't afford medical marijuana. I'd give them a little bit of what I grew every month. Yeah, it was through a nonprofit farming coalition for veterans that Sweat met his partner, Newsom, who would become his business partner. The coalition's director was interested in what Sweat was doing with the marijuana for vets, but receives federal funding, so he couldn't endorse it. It's not legal. It's against federal laws. The next thing you knew, Aaron and I were attending an Eco Farm conference together, he said. They drove to the conference together and brainstormed and became and what became their business, SCVA, is licensed in California to cultivate, manufacture, wholesale, and retail cannabis, and both men have served on boards setting policies governing the industry. California cannabis, marijuana, whatever you want to call it, pregnant blue Winstons, herb, weed, grass, is legal for both medical and recreational use, as long as you're an adult. The SCVA, the group that Jason founded, gives 10% of its products to veterans. Veterans apparently, and I believe this, suffer disappropriately high numbers as they struggle with mental problems and chronic pain. Studies show that an average of 20 veterans committed suicide a day. Sweat says we're kind of like the VFW of cannabis, like the old AMVETS Club in Ghent. The business partners have been interviewed by industry publications and were featured in Time magazine earlier this year. That's the old boy from Andalusia, Time magazine. CNN's interview is the biggest event they've had so far. Jason Sweat says they decided to be transparent about what they're doing and the media attention that the SCVA has received. We have a position that needs to be pushed. by however many means are necessary, he says, and we've gotten good feedback. Now, this is very important, came out in the article. The American Legion, a group representing 2.4 million U.S. military veterans, has called for Congress to remove marijuana from a Schedule 1 of the Federal Controlled Substances Act and reclassified it in a category that at a minimum will recognize cannabis as a drug with potential medicinal value. Sweat believes it'll happen before the end of the year. Now here's another interesting thing. In Canada, the Veterans Administration there will provide prescription cannabis to their veterans. And in Israel, it's provided to active duty soldiers. That's one of the ways, I guess, they cope with the stress that those guys are under. Other developed nations are moving along with it, and they say that they're going to continue to push it. Jason is the son of Tawana Wright of Gant, Alabama. It's interesting, I'm not going to take a public stand one way or the other on marijuana, but it's interesting, it seems, how the attitudes toward it are changing. Of course, it's been a long story of how marijuana was originally portrayed versus what it really is. An interesting article, though. Remember, the Andalusia Star News is a source for all of our, almost all of our news stories here. In keeping with the tradition of what we normally do here at the show, want to give you the buzzard count for today. Yes, even a beautiful day like today, even the buzzards get out. And this morning I checked, as Jared and I drove up. I feel so important. He was my chauffeur today. That I managed to count 9 buzzards hanging around the courthouse, and almost as many lawyers. So that's our buzzard count for today. The weather looks like it's going to be great. When we get back, we'll talk about another drug kind of choice called Juul, Juul. What I don't know about drugs is full of, encyclopedias full of this stuff, but apparently there's a way around everything. And we're going to discuss that in just a minute when we get back. And we're going to take a break now. Come back shortly. Welcome back to Good News Covington County. Glad to have you back here. Folks, have you ever seen something that looks like this? This is a memory stick. And it works better than my memory does. It doesn't seem to make the mistakes that I make, but if I walk past certain magnetized things, I can still remember, but this one sometimes can't. But I'm not here to talk to you about memory capacity on computers or memory capacities on anything else. I'm here to talk to you about a new product that's available out there that the teens are apparently just going crazy about nationwide, and it's called Juul. Spell that Juul. Maybe Joel, I don't know, but Juul. Easier for me to pronounce. It's a great article in the Andalusia Star News written by Christopher Smith, is one of their fine journalists over there. And he talks about Juul. Now, Juul is a flash drive look-alike e-cigarette. Looks like this. These kids carry them to school all the time, and they've got their lessons on them. I've got my resume on one. Nobody's interested in it, but I've got it on one. Anyway, it's an e-cigarette, and it's causing problems. It's available in town. I can tell you the store that it's available at, but I'm not going to because I don't just think it's a great idea to share that. It's a small, sleek device like this that students can put in their palms, just like this, walk around. Instead of computer files, though, it's got nicotine in it, one of the most addictive substances that there is. Dr. Daniel Shakespeare, says they're starting to see the problem at Andalusia High School. They haven't had much of an opportunity to watch the kids but they know it's a growing problem. Apparently they've caught a few out in the parking lot and other places, but it's a highly concentrated form of nicotine. There are about 200 hits of nicotine in a container or product about this size that they can vape, just like an e-cigarette. And they can vape like that in class. Anyway, the pod is equal to 200 cigarette puffs, which is like the equivalent of smoking a pack of cigarettes a day. Ops School Superintendent Michael Smithart says they're starting to see the same thing crop up. And of course, they feel like education is the best thing you can do. I mention this because many of you have got children or grandchildren that I know you want to continue to be healthy. And, you may smoke. I used to. It's a nasty habit. It's a hard one to kick. But the big thing is as I found out, as I've gotten older, it's been 30 years since I smoked a cigarette, maybe more. And even when I go to the doctor, they refer to me as a recovering addict, even to this time, because the damage that smoking does to your lungs long term. So I want you to be aware of this, that this is potentially, this Juul thing could be something that affects your children. Juul is easy to conceal, and they've dealt with 2 students on the bus here in Andalusia that they caught vaping, and then they're starting to see other kids use it as well. According to Dr. Shakespeare, they said kids always come up with things to keep us on our toes. I think that's a good philosophy. We will deal with it as the best way possible when it does become a problem, and of course it will become a problem if something's not done about it. I want to talk about something else now, a complete 180-degree change from that, and that is something that Comfort Care Hospice is doing this weekend here in town, and it's a butterfly release. It's an annual event that they have, and it's designed to help remember loved ones that we've lost. Butterflies and bluegrass is what they're going to call the event. The lady that's doing most of and she is a workhorse that's doing most of the work here, is Vicki Waycaster. She's at Comfort Care Hospice. The event is made as a way to remember those we've lost, passed away, and have fellowship with others that might be in grief as well. There's always laughter, she says, tears, and lots of hugs for people that are there. It's kind of a beautiful thing. The event will be held at Kilpatrick Park. I think that's supposed to be Kirkpatrick, but anyway, they're going to have a picnic lunch with live music from the Strawn Spring Band and the LBW Community College Ensemble. The picnic lunch will be provided by a steamboat, and let me tell you, their food is out of this world. And the event is specifically for those who lost loved ones while in hospice care. I can tell you those people do a good job. They're releasing more than 200 butterflies this year. The event will be this Saturday, May 5th at 10 a.m. There'll be events for children as well, spacewalk and face painting. If you want to know more about this, call Vicki Waycaster, Comfort Care Hospice at 334-427-4000. Folks, that about ends this segment. We'll be back with you shortly. Welcome back to Good News Covington County. Here on May Day, the first day of May, 2018, a beautiful Tuesday in Covington County. I got a little bit of a reminder here. If you remember the Andalusia Chamber of Commerce coming up this Thursday, they've got what they call a legislative lunch out at Power South. Our state senator, Jimmy Holley, Alabama State Senate, and our representative to the State House, Mike Jones, our neighbor across the square, will be at the Power South building with a kind of a meet and greet, but they're going to be talking about what it's up on the legislative agenda for this next session. I think it'll be a good thing to go and see if you're a member of the chamber. I think it'd be great to involve yourself in there. We're going to try to be there to cover it, and we'll try to bring you the news from it, but there's nothing like being there in person. We're really fortunate to have the representation that we have in this area. They're very involved and interested in what we're doing. I think they're going to have to spend an awful lot of the time in their presentation talking about the Alabama prison system, its inadequacies, and where we are relative to the federal court orders and the lawsuits that have been brought against the state of Alabama for prisoner welfare. Should be an interesting program. They'll also probably talk to us about other things on the agenda in Montgomery. You don't have to go. It's not important. It's only your tax dollars. But if you're interested in the way they're spent, it'll be a great opportunity to hear it from the horse's mouth. That little public service announcement aside, there's a really interesting story in the Star News written by Lacey Stinson about a lady named Jenna Owen. And she has a project where she's trying to connect the faces, pictures of faces of the names on the Vietnam Memorial in Washington, D.C. If you've ever got a chance to go there, it's a striking piece of work. And for my generation, it's almost a thing that will shake you as you go and you read the names of your friends and associates that went over there and didn't make it back from Vietnam. As a part of this program, Ms. Hohen is going around collecting pictures of the GIs, and I use that as a kind of a broad term, the people that served over there in Vietnam during the Vietnam era and died and didn't come back. And that she's trying to find pictures of those people and share them. Thus far, now there are about 58,000 names on that monument, but thus far she's collected over 6,000 pictures, and it's a noble cause that she's going to do this for. Now, you're asking yourself, why is this lady from California doing this? I mean, what has it got to do with Covington County? Well, there are 3 young men from Covington County that died in the Vietnam conflict whose names are on the wall, and she's been unable to locate photographs. And she's kind of entreating us in this area, asking us if we've got a picture, if we can get them to her. Now, I'm sure you can call Miss Stinson if you've got a picture, and she'll get it to Miss Owen. But here are the names of the young men from Covington County that she does not have pictures of. She's got pictures of the rest of them, but not these. Aubrey Cawley of River Falls, born in 1941, deceased in 1966. The second Covington Countyan is Dewey R. Owens of Andalusia, born in 1948 and deceased in 1968, 20 years old. Daniel S. Scroggins of Wing, born in 1947, deceased in 1968, 21 years old. Hohen says that she could use all the help that she can get on this project. And she asked anybody that's related or used to be a friend of any of these people, if they've got a photograph, she would appreciate having it. She says she's willing to look, to help an individual that would like to volunteer for the research in the community to do that if they don't find all the photos. And I'm going to give you an email address here. If you've got the photos, if you can send them by email to neverforgotten2014@gmail.com. neverforgotten2014@gmail.com. That's neverforgotten2014@gmail.com. Never Forgotten 2014 is lowercase and it's all in one string. NEVERFORGOTTEN 2014 @gmail.com. If you're interested in education or anything like that on this lady's been endorsed by Jan Scruggs, who's was one of the two originators of the project for the Vietnam Memorial. You can find out more about what they're doing at www.vvmf.org/thewall, period. That's www.vvmf.org/thewall, period. Thank you for this last few minutes. It's kind of a heart-rendering thing for me. Appreciate you watching. We'll be back shortly with some sports. Welcome back to Good News Covington County. Folks, I want to make a correction before we get out of this program today. We thought we were going to have someone from the Humane Society. Miss Deborah Evans was scheduled to be with us today with one of those pets from down there. And her husband had a little accident, and I don't know, he sprained his knee or got a overextended ligament or tendon or something like that, and she couldn't make it today. We wish her and her husband the best on his recovery, and she'll be in here later this week. Now in sports news, and this story is by Josh Dutton. It's about the Andalusia Bulldog soccer team as they were headed to state this year. Kind of disappointed. The Bulldog soccer team ended their season Monday night, and we talked about this yesterday, with a 3-1 loss to the Montgomery Catholic Knights. It was in the second round of the Class 4A/5A state playoffs in Montgomery. Montgomery Catholic got down to business in a hurry, but Franklin Losario, the goalkeeper for Andalusia, did a great job keeping the ball out of the net, but all said and done, it was just overwhelming. Reese Burkhart was, I guess, a real stud as he made a strong shot at the goal and sailed it to the left of the net. Then they got a goal kick. He was allowed a goal kick. Who sent a long kick to David Rutledge at midfield, and Rutledge took a few steps and then made a pass to Kiki Wayne. Wayne drove up the field around a Montgomery defender and scored for the Bulldogs to take the lead 1-0 with 17 minutes and 24 seconds left in the open half. Unfortunately, that was the last time that Andalusia was able to score, as the Catholic Knights went on to defeat us 3-1. Another story I'm sad to report is that in baseball, the Bobcats saw their season come to an end when they fell 12-2 to the Mobile Christian School in the second round of the Class 3A playoffs Saturday in Opp. I should have reported that yesterday. Those kids have really played well. Their coach has done a superlative job. They've got a bunch of kids that have been playing together since they were 5-6 years old. They're a great team. Sorry to see them fall out this early in the playoffs. Weather. Today, sunny, calm, about 86 degree high. Wind becoming southeast around 5 miles an hour in the morning. Tonight, mostly clear with a low around 57. South wind around 5 miles per hour, becoming calm. Wednesday be Sunday, high about 87 degrees. Wind becoming out of the southeast, again about 5 miles an hour. Wednesday night, mostly clear with a low around 58. The south wind again from about 5 miles an hour, becoming calm. That's a great weather report as far as I'm concerned. I think it'd be a great idea and a great time for you to open the windows, air out your house, get comfortable, and enjoy some cheap living without the air or the heat on. Well, folks, that's about it for today's news, and we're sure glad you stayed here with us and watched every minute of it, or even if you didn't watch every minute of it, we're glad that you're here too. We hope that you'll have a great afternoon. I want you to remember a couple of things. Be kind to one another, and the other thing is shop local. See you tomorrow.